A lot of times when I ask religious people for evidence of God, they'll suggest that I get on my knees and ask God for some evidence. I don't know why they assume that atheists haven't already thought of that, or that atheists wouldn't give that a try. As silly as it is, whenever it's suggested, I'll do it immediately. I have no problem conducting an experiment to determine the existence of God. Here's what I find most interesting. Once I've asked their God for a sign, and we receive no sign, they don't interpret the results of the experiment how you might expect. Remember, this is how they suggested to prove God. But if you don't get a sign, they won't change their mind. Surprising, I know. Instead, they'll tell you that you weren't being sincere enough when you asked. Apparently this God is a bit touchy about how he's addressed. He's kind of a diva, from what I can gather. Imagine that. They asked me to try and communicate with a God that I don't believe in, using telepathy, which I also don't believe in, and they want me to be sincere, too. I'm already ignoring two ridiculous notions: willing to ask your God for a sign, and you're telling me he's up there in the clouds with his arms folded, pouting because he doesn't like the way I asked? I have a challenge for all you Christians out there. Use your ESP thing to ask the great Juju of the mountain to reveal himself. But you have to really mean it, or he won't bother. You see how you have to believe first in order to ask properly, in order to even be eligible to get a sign? If your God requires me to believe before I'll be worthy of any evidence to justify my belief, I think your God and I are at an impasse. I've noticed something, though. Whenever I truly try to be sincere, I almost start to believe. It feels like for that moment, I know what it's actually like to communicate with the great Juju. I suppose if I kept trying, I might actually bring myself to be sincere enough, to believe enough, to brainwash myself enough, to convince God that I'm worthy of a sign, that I'm worthy of a little bit of his precious attention. If he could only notice me down here asking him over and over for a sign. Wait a second, who's trying to convince who that they exist here?